my name is Solana. I am here from Israel. Before I start my presentation, I have to apologize to France. One, my presentation is kind of long, but I'm going to try to make it fun and add presentations, and hopefully will engage all of you. The second, apologies because currently I'm working with Radiance user. We use boxes for meeting in box, and we use margins, and we use Opera, and my simulations are in black and white, kind of boring compared to what I've seen today. So you're all awesome. And I will appreciate any suggestion we have on how we're doing this, because again, we grab the little knowledge that we had as the little objects and foreign knowledge together in a package. That's still very useful for me. I'm going to go over 7 different areas. First, I'll do a bit of background on PV for all days, for all of you. Then on what is challenging about PV? What are the vibration ratings, right? Then I will present vibration ratings, which is the patch that we developed item. It's proper specifically for photovoltaics. And then I'm going to present a couple of the features that I thought you might find interesting, like how you can put a sky by variable, so it's kind of like selection knowledge that we do not here, as well as for kind of half-baked spectral simulations. And finally, just a little bit of fashion data that we use that might be already not to you. I did see some of the research segments there, for example, so that. This is the curve of the employment goals for the US. Right now, we are at actually that's not living, we're 160 of us. This is 2 years old now. On 2024, and we are hoping to get all the way to 1.6 terawatts. 2 years ago, we had one curve globally. And you see the deployment goals for the world, it's as high as 75 terawatts. Right, so just think of the scale of the challenge that's going to get. You think we're going to be a lot now? It's actually the fastest growing renewable and energy source in general, deployments. And more is coming. So there's going to be a lot of work again by seeing some job goals from into modeling. In terms of manufacturing, the US has some manufacturing, it's going to grow, but the whole world will come itself also know that work about the factory goals. And PV has evolved very, very quickly. In terms of technology, it looks completely different than it did 10 years ago. One of the main changes is now the modules are glass and glass, and they have solar cells. You can see the solar cells on both sides, so they are bifacial. We can absorb light from both sides. That's the main change. Now, 75% of the 2-way scale deployed in the US is 50% of the world scale, and that is projected to grow because it's a very simple way of grabbing extra input in radiance, right? So it's very simple. And we still have changes coming up. We did films, so the light through tandem, so that it's very self-combination that absorbs the light if that's way possible. But yes, bifacial definitely made a big impact. And this was non-existent commercially until 2017. Right? That's when I was in the middle of my PhD. This is just a graph showing a little bit of why bifacial, right? So you have one facial traditional system and a mixed tilt, right? That doesn't move like a group. And then you make it bifacial, then you have a gate. And that depends also on the weather set, always the gate you're set on. And then you go to tracking, so the one that follow the sun as it goes through the day, right? Not full axis tracking, single axis tracking is really, really common now. So that really also increases your energy gain. So it's a no-brainer, that's why it's being deployed. In terms of modeling PV, so we have initially, this is the weather data, right? Weather data, then we calculate the radiance on the plane of array of the gas, basically. You add that shaking spoiler, you calculate the module temperature, which depends on when and that radius, right? There's more light. There's also losses and the heat on the panel. And then you do all the performance and electrical. So the first four steps are all related to ingredients. Typical set models that you will find in software is chopping, HDR, KRS, etc. And at least you need PHI, because there's transition models, but ideally they're behind PHI. Most weather file sources have that now. And with the temperature albedo. Albedo is from the ground for how we're capturing that value from the ground simply both in the value, regardless. Typically time, sometimes, or weight, or yeah. So that was very bullish model for frontal radius and P, but not so for weird radius. So when 2017 came around, and people said, "Oh, we have this new technology that we want to deploy this big deal owners." Like they went to the bank and said, "Okay, how much extra money are you gonna get?" And we sell this much instead. And it was not on the software, it was not on the feature software. So the value radius was not as simple as the rest calculation that the radius on that flat surface of the module, right? Because now you have reflected direct light, reflected diffuse light, even some direct light on early warnings. And obviously a lot of other related with the cloud and the that changes spatially, like so there are a lot of questions. And yeah, so this rear radius depends on a lot of variables, right? Like if the modules are really close to the roof, for example, there's no rear radius, right? My facial is not rooftops, they're utility scales. So the higher you're above from the ground, there's more radius, the more separation you have to then there's lights, the signs that you let for light or whatever. So when this model started coming up, the first was looking at radius transfer theory. So this bifacial model, right? So simply two surfaces and how each surface looks at each other. You divide each surface into multiple small sections and then calculate the total radius. Now this is very simple to have, so it's like C is infinite. Sorry, you're in the middle of an infinite field and there's no other like issue there. It also assumes at the top of response of the ground. It makes a lot of simplification. But then you obviously have ray tracing. And there's ray tracers. The one that we're presenting is not one that's still open source because of the complexity as well as things to radius. And this is a visualization, but I'll a little more to the big factor for future references that people can possibly see here. For those of you that like equations, those are the big factor equations. But basically, you have segments in the ground, and you calculate KMI, how much of the open side array you get. Then, am I direct sum or not? So you get that sum in radians. Then you calculate how much is reflected to the right, and then how much is being sent to the back. So this three factors, or the models for radius, press the new solution software do really well for the radius again. So this is your model versus measure on the pixel. So it falls pretty well on that line of 1 2. Now for the rear radius, it doesn't do us good with the fact for all of this assumptions that we have. I mean, this one seems to be good, but that's actually a failing in the right direction. It's carrying some of the firm value. So it's this is no one, and then it's like, oh, we have a lot of grades. Anyway, so this doesn't look very encouraging. However, the rear radius is at most 10% of the contribution of the grades that the panel will see. So when you actually put it into the losses from the absorption and the electrical modeling and the system and the electrical mismatch training losses, etc., we end up back again on that block. So we're doing it in software right now at this stage, a couple of years after the beginning, they are good. The defector models. And they're good, and they have nice simulations, and they're fast, and they're just basic geometry, they don't have graphing or anything, so, but they are behind the new release. So why the ranges? Good. So when this began again in 2017, 2018, we were seeing a lot of articles, perhaps not here, but Michael will previously this, like bifacial gains of 50%, 27%, etc. And some of the things that are baked into that number is, that comparison to fixed skills and drop. But also that in a lot of the test sites, like those with suspicious or exam published, then were like single modules, and then they were mentioning, oh, this module compared to this other module here, there's no shade. And, or there's, there were a lot of small tests. So when you're comparing to a huge field, like the gigawatt size field of time, they're more of an extended state of shading. So that was not reflected. And thanks to all of our modeling, we can actually say, okay, no, this is your baby bus, that's enough to go to bigger size. Now you're more like spending something around 4% to maybe 40%. So that's, if you see a bifacial gain after this, because you're almost like hearing my speech, and it says like about 20, then like look closer. So this is like the result from our field for 5 years, steady state confidence. Another way of visualizing this, right? Why use ray tracing? Because we have sometimes smaller sites, right? Or we want to be able to match and validate everything. So initially, again, we had that single module, but really when you already, you boost 50% of the ratings it's being told at least. So that was kind of like the first simulation evaluation piece. Another issue that, okay, when this bifacial started, the industry gave a question for us, like, okay, this is great, we're having extra radiance, but what about the modules on the edge? There is like extra light that they have in the shading, right? So in North America, for example, the ones that are closer to the south, they're going to get a lot more reflection. And then a lot more radiation, and they were like worried about electrically having issues, right? Or perhaps losing that power. So we can model that, and yes, there is a gain. Like if you saw here, it goes between 5 all the way to 20%, for example, the edges. But electrically, and with this side, which is already 20 modules by 10 rows, which is more than enough for the steady state, it's only 0.28% gain. So it's very minimal. Again, then you go to bigger sites, the bifacial is really going to matter on it. So bifacial rates in ray tracing helps us answer that. Another question that the industry had was, okay, what about the rock? Do we need to modify the rock? Do we need these models be away from the term? There's that shading happening here. You need to like make it float or put them too off with the term to be between and leave space gaps and all this kind of magic. So yes, there is shading. We call this particular custom modules. If you know, there's a lot of junction boxes, so these are like we can gather your radiance measurement. So the power curve from each row, so we can calculate the cells in the middle have 5% shading. So yes, there is shading, but really, no one's going to need to really worry. There's again very little contribution. Significant contribution, but that non-uniformity does not affect compared to the front rates. But there's still a lot of research on that. Students are like, okay, Rocky, brains, like models of brain, there's Rocky models too. How does that all give shadow and also reflections, like a little up here, where it's up. So there's cool stuff that I think. Another useful use of ray tracing is evaluating sensor precision. So in industry, you have your big field, your holder, you want to make sure that it's producing what you're supposed to. You put your radiance sensors, right? Typically for numbers, we're going to start drafting over time. Or reference cells, which are silicon, so they match spectrally. And this is kind of west, center west, center east, right, for the tracker. And if you see the radiance curve for a year or 10 years, 2 years today, sorry. They vary a lot. The extremes would be ones we actually go a little higher, there's choices that go down. It's true that they able to see more light and less light. Up to 30% difference between 1 and 32. So again, ray tracing, for example, in that. And then so that this becomes a suggestion for industry and hopefully soon a standard where to place the rays on it, right? So there's standards on what to measure. It just says currently at 2 sensors for every specific area. Now it is okay, place it here, 25% of the edges, etc. Other cool things that we can do for me is evaluate level of operations and applications. Vertical meeting, vertical meeting. Yes, yes. So this here is from Sweden, right here, really highlighted. That's also like the high snow. So yes, there's vertical PV is very strongly for other PV applications, but for highlighted because there's no like instead vertical surface, right? It's also used in Europe for various sound barriers, so it's a very interesting application. However, the key factors specifically this vertical surface as well as highlight to start to get a lot more error. So one of the papers that we have recently submitted, also last week, looking at that on slides, just comparing the two factors and ray tracing more accurately to the results. Take that to the extreme. Let's take that to the South Pole. That is very highlighted for satellite. So we have a recent paper also on doing renewables in the South Pole, which is really cool. Yes, I'm right. And we came, okay, how do we put PV in the South Pole? Vertical sounds great. We know sun is like lower label incidence. We can put crazy ideas and breakout designs. Establish with something more like forward direction setup. That's what's described in this publication. And we went all the way to do a techno-economical analysis. So ray tracing and techno-economical analysis of optimizing. And it saves a lot of pixel, which is really expensive in the South Pole. So yes, it makes sense economically and also for the environment to do that. And also because it's cool. The other one that I mentioned briefly already is photovoltaics, right? So agriculture and photovoltaics. In the US, we have a definition of photovoltaics and pasture grass, pollinator habitats, and also what is it? Sheep and cattle. But yes, crop in particular is very interesting because depending on the light, right, the plants are going to grow different. So studying this with ray tracing is very interesting, especially if they go into the spectral aspect, right? And because agrivoltaic sites are not like traditional steady state manufacturers in model sites, they have more spacing, more clearance, more spacing between rows to put tractors through. There's also a lot of interest, like everywhere that we have test site, they're doing this, they're doing bio materials. And either a big surface or optimized surface, which is what we did on this paper. So kind of like where the reflector should be, and also the size to see if the data says economic. So that is a very interesting area where it's obviously still, but visually that's great, right? And then these reflectors are also like, ooh, we should do this. So there's a lot of interest in that. Finally, in this section, quality wide ray trace. Because we have cool optics solutions still coming and being researched, right? To really take advantage of all of the spectrum. We have multicolor perovskite solar cells, holograms, for example. And also even using PV inside of this perovskite, specifically tunable barriers that may match the light sources and do the very high efficiency might be able to power, a light or a safety or a door or something inside of the house without having to wire it. Okay. And this is nothing new because we have calculators with amorphous silicon many decades ago. But now with this solar cell network, I should see that becomes a very big possibility. Finally, sorry, but ray tracing is also for developing simple blocks. So the view factors have a lot of drawbacks, but we can do simplify models and validate them through ray tracing, hopefully apply the record some optimization of the albedo or the voltaics. And at this point, bifacial radiance has found the de facto comparison tool for others, which is a lot of universities, a lot of students, a lot of groups are developing their own view factors, 3D view factors, and ray tracers. And because we're the only open source that has been many applications with validated data, it's a comparison. So, yeah, very good. How's everybody doing? Good. Okay, do we want to open the lid now a little bit? What's this bifacial already saying? Yeah. Yes, thank you. Okay, so it is a project, a candy project, where we have some code in Python that it writes all the magical fun stuff for Radiance, you know, the wrap files, or all files, etc. And it leaves inside Excel, for example, with the Radiance and the module, which that Radiance is what goes into the performance models, right? We started this in 2017, and the steps will be very familiar for you. We make what we call a radius object, which is this world. We make a sky, we make a module, then the module gets replicated, and then all of those three elements get copied to that object. Then we have an analysis object, which will say, okay, I will want to know this module, so we do the analysis of the radius. Yes. So those are the commands that we use. Make module, so this is Python, right? So we have functions and then we give all the inputs. And it can be a simple or a lot more complex. All of this inputs respond to what the industry has asked of us. Modules have a size of X and Y. On the module unit, we're also adding the torque to because then it replicates it into the different ones. For example, we also do sometimes on cell level modeling. Most of the time, it's just a single flat surface is enough for your model when you're modeling. But that's how we create the model as that first step. Then create a scene. So the scene you pass the information relative to this array that we're building. What tilt is it? It's a fixed tilt. What clearance height? What's the separation between the rows of the pitch? How many modules, how many rows we're going to do. Right? And that relates to that Radiance code of replicating the rows and the spacing and moving it, etc. So this gets written internally by fish rates, and that's what we type as a user. Cool things that we have is that we can do various arrays of objects. So when we have sites that are like a rooftop that has PD on different sites, or an array that's a research array that you have different arrays. So you can add them as different objects as long as you pass a different origin coordinates to each one. And finally, the analysis object, you tell it, okay, one module 1 is row 1, or module 5 is row 10, etc. It knows it's a will calculate the radius in there. This is how the code looks like. You read the weather file. I guess I ignore if the loads will be technology automatically, or in start to be. Read the weather file, you tell it to do a gender list for whatever time you want. The example that I made is for 9 a.m. Today. You make a module as simple as it's a 1 by 2 meter module. You make a scene, you make a scene, make a dot file, and then analyze. This is how the results look like then afterwards. So we print out, we do different versions of the results depending on what we're analyzing. This is the basic model in Radiance on the front surface and on the back surface. Right? So for module 1, yes, row 1, it will get that front Radiance. So how to track bifacial radius and how to start to use it if there's interest or anybody. So we have a lot of tutorials. So we have somebody comes a student or an industry say, hey, I want to go like this and make it equals. There's a lot of examples. And we also have a GUI. Now the GUI has a lot of features that I said, but it's more regular arrays, right? So multi-scene object doesn't do that, triple takes doesn't do that. but it does extend the field with the field with attention and for good set. So those are there. Oh my god. I'm gonna skip this, but I have a tutorial on doing that today I'm going to show, and you can access it on your internet, and you don't have to install anything. You just need to run under the board. So that is really cool. It will stop at the OCOM though, because there is no general comparables yet. But they will be soon. But yeah, it's a pretty nice way to teach people Radiance too online. So anyway, the couple features that I wanted to share with you that we have now that are like additions on how we handle or use Radiance differently, kind of. So cumulative side, right? So we have maybe. There we go. So we can do one simulation for each hour in a year for parallel night. So it's not in 760, so we have about 4,000 sun hours, right? So we will make a lot of simulations. Or we can do one for every day, right? So you add all the hours of that day and make a simulation, you know, that's common for most of you. So yeah, you add all those hours and that simulation 265. Then you can do perhaps simulation by month or even a simulation by year. Yes, that will give me my bifacial thing, for example, the front and the rear radius. It will not tell me hourly radius, so I cannot do like power. But it can give me a facial thing, it can give me shading factor, etc. Now, you can see the fix or track. There's a lot of tracks. That's why we came up with a way that basically makes a weather plot that only has the hours with the tracker at a specific angle. So at -45, it's all of these hours in the sky. At 40, it's going to be at, I don't know, 9 a.m. on January and 10 a.m. on February. So it looks up with that. And so you end up with only 19 simulations or so if you're doing like every 5. So this is a way to go from a lot of simulations to fewer with the cumulative sky. Because the tracker angle also changes a lot, right? So then your rates will be also very different. Spectral simulations. So PD has some ideal spectrum conversion conditions, right? So we've seen the A 1.5. This becomes more sensitive at higher wavelengths, around 12.1, for example, for silicon, right? There's obviously some that are circumvented, but they're typically that channel slow. So to maximize production, it is interesting, especially when you're adding cells or when you're doing some other type of spectral conversion, to think spectrally to understand really that output that you're going to have. Another reason why model spectrally is because it's a lot of the degradation process that we study are responsive to spectra and temperature, right? So for example, if you're in a location like Tucson, where there's like a lot of radiance at high temperatures, those thermally activated processes are going to be more right? And so, for example, fact sheets, we had a really bad batch of fact sheets in 2011, 2012. A lot of them cracked 4 years into the field. It was seen that the acceleration processes and standards were not catching that, so this became important, right? So doing the right tests and modeling. I don't know if all of you are familiar with SMARTS, but SMART is a program by Christian Imar, that gives you DNI, etc. for any location and altitude. Well, I don't know. So data. This is an example of a graph for SMART. This is a fortune. It's a program from 1970 something. There's a upcoming newer version or something. But yeah, same thing. It's a Python wrapper that has the data and longitude the altitude of the cell. This example I modeled an alligator, for instance. So you can use this to model your alligator or your spectrum on any location. And it has a lot of detail into the models there too, especially also the aerosol data. So we have all of that, the temperature, the humidity, and the aerosol like this. it will really tailor that spectrum, the spectrum that we get out. Now, let's say that's not super easy to come by. There's various models, a new one, and a couple more that I mentioned earlier. But there is data, for example, on this different sites that I mentioned earlier from the Enroll, and they have their baseline measurements of Enroll. So there's like VNI spectral model since this 2016, and there was still up to the 2013. So there's like decade of data on sites. So what do we do with this smart state? So you model every hour of the direct and the diffuse, for example. You see there's both a shape shift as well as intensity change, but this is all ideal data, right? And in truth, all weather is going to look not as shiny, perhaps there's a lot of vertical, that if I were to do this, what matter of spots. So one of the methods that we use to then calculate the spectrum is scaling by that typical meteorological year data. So an example, 2 p.m. there. Maybe. There we go. 2 p.m. So we have 803 watts and 111 phi. So we have more cumulative distribution for the DNI and phi. And each patch will have a radiance value, right? Or radiation value. So we take this value, we have the spectrum generated from smarts. That spectrum integrates into also a radiance of 1 meter squared. And so we are going to first normalize it. And then we are going to multiply by that value of the spectrum to obtain the spectrum of the patch. We do the same thing for every patch basically for the diffuse light. And then we obtain basically a profile of spectrum for every scene. And we have a library that uses then spectrum to model. We do it very plainly, wavelength by wavelength. So very excited about the spectral functions. Now we simplify method, so you can range trace every wavelength, or you can also contribution. You know, G rear or G front or any G rear is a summation of the direct light, the reflected light, reflected direct, reflected diffuse, and diffuse light. So if you know how much that amount of light is, and you have your spectrum from smart DNI and phi, then we can calculate also a rear spectrum, summing all of that. How do you do that? Well, you do 5 simulations with bifacial radiance, one regular one where you set DNI to 0. So you will get all the other components, one where you get phi to 0, DNI will be at 0, and phi will be at 0. So that will be the distribution for each source. Right, so that's how you can get a spectrum. This is an example of using that method versus ray tracing wavelength by wavelength. So 5 simulation versus a lot of wavelength simulations. Okay, I'm getting to the end. Thank you. In terms of data, the end certificate I mentioned earlier, we started with EWs, I think because Radiance uses it a lot. They have great availability, but at least when we have modeled with people there to match or look at the quality of the data, we've seen some sites that have Radiance about 40,000 or 4,000 or values that are in the data that sometimes with Radiance or some other like
Stop.
Okay, I'm not saying anything not new, sorry. Okay, we were like, okay, this is kind of weird, so we switched for the most part to using NSRDB, which at least has a little more quality control flags. Now, there is definitely a lot of source data. I love this image, please read it. So in case you're looking for the best satellite data source, they're all the best. Yes, so there's a benchmark actually comparing some of it. Satellite data is not good for me as local data, but I just find this is taken from the websites without the presentation. They're all the best. It's great. But if you don't know about Piglet, it's a great program that the DD community has. It's like so successfully developed by so many people. It has like all peer-reviewed algorithms, like soil position algorithm, air mass forecasting, etc. And a lot of them are implemented other tools for all of these databases. So if you want to get weather data, this is a very simple way to do it programmatically. Albedo data is a little bit, not something more common, definitely a lot of the researchers have added it. It was a little bit less, more scarce when bifacial started, so this is serving a lot, adding that. Obviously, snow makes a lot of difference, in satellite versus local data also makes difference, so, you know, so I'm share an example of some stations, and most stations have a lot of data on that. And yeah, conclusions, I needed. So solar arrays are very competitive, which makes bifacial arrays kind of rapid. There's a lot of customizations in the modules, arrays, seems that follow specifically what industry does, because we talk a lot about industry, we have done it to answer those questions and our research questions. This is open source, it's now established as state of the art for other arrays, PP arrays, tools, I should say, comparisons. Our current roadmap or funding is mostly for the photovoltaic side, by funding, we will say funding, and continue to simplify model development. And we're still using general and Jenkins for the most part, and I think Jenkins is not even existing anymore.
Well, Jen Day Matrix has a -A option, something that gives you the thing.
Yeah, and I've been looking at the previous workshops, and I think Gen and TX should be what we should be using now, or going towards, so. Anyways, happy to talk and get suggestions from all of you that have done anything similar, or that look at this like, oh, you should try this whole feature. And especially if that's background thing, yes, thank you. That sounds great. That was all. Any questions?
Yeah, so you've done all this modeling and analysis and all that, you deploy the solar farms. What kind of variance do you see in the real world performance of the farm versus the model? Is it really accurate or is it?
Yes, so in terms of the model accuracy that we have for motivation system was below 3%. For motivation system, 3%, that's one way of presenting it, model accuracy versus data. The other way is that we have research into the peak in the US, so that is about 10 gigawatts of the number of states that we have deployed. And in that, with the system availability, degradation, and performance. And in terms of that, we have encountered that about 90% of the systems are performing between 10% of the expectation, something like that. So yes, we're doing good.
Some variance.
There's definitely like a tail of degradation as well as sometimes, you know, learning curve on modeling or doing with projections as well. So, but overall, it's growing because it's doing money. That's okay. And you compare over, but money. Yes.
Like just to recap the take home message, what is the benefit of deep phase once you have the 4 hours?
It just means that it absorbs solar energy from the back side as well as the front side.
Yeah, that's three things, but monofacial, bifacial, and monofacial and bifacial tracking.
Oh, yes. Yeah, so tracking, so fixed still versus track was a big way of increasing like 50% in production. Right, if you're reducing that angle of incidence surface, they just track something like this. And then on top of that, you know, spatial models, right? Fixed versus this, you only have so much light in the back. On the tracking, then you're also going to be changing your light, but also going to be further from the ground, more spacing between the rows than on the fixed scale system. So there's an added benefit on the game. So more power. Yeah.
You said if someone is promising 20%, you should have a deeper look on that.
Yes.
So it's always.
Because they might be comparing a fixed scale versus a track system. You should compare apples to apples. So if it's in terms of bifacial gain, right? So same module with the same racking port strategy. The bifacial gain from just adding that extra irradiance on the back, that's more to be 4 to 14 maybe.
So I was also unclear on the tracking. Are they tracking as azimuth or are they tracking with sun throughout the day?
Yeah, no, it just tracks, so they're north to south typically, and they just track through the day. So they do from -50 to 50 through the day. So that's the most common. Dual axis trackers, they were big when the concentrating photovoltaics was a thing, when silicon was very expensive from the mid 2000s. Now single axis tracking, you're less, moving parts, less stage, I mean, it's still moving, but the dual axis trackers were a lot of steel to support that area and just didn't work as well. They haven't made a comeback yet. Everything's
I
one
don't
axis.
bother tilting them and tracking most of the time, they just.
There are
Axis.
yeah, so there are some that like tilt the axis, just like make one pole higher, or also specifically, you know, as we expand PV installations, you're going to more uneven terrain. So you end up with a surface that's still decided, but the tracker, the movement is still just
Just
east to
one
west.
axis. Yeah.
Yes,
We have a tool comparison in your drawer somewhere, comparing PD solar or PD size to bifacial radiance.
yes, a lot,
Um,
yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I just stole the display so I can put up, we have to. Oops.